Now, you've heard me say very early on in this whole spamdemic that the fangs of the serpent are like the two doses. The two fangs, the two doses. Fangs are hollow. And this is the snake bite. So I wasn't surprised to see all this play out in the series, The 100. Now, what you're looking at here is the end of season 6. And some of what you're going to see here is the beginnings of the last season, which is season 7. Season 7 finished airing a few months before the potion came to market. And the point is that the symbolism that you're going to see, all the symbolism in this trailer that you're going to see next, came before the potion came to market. Now, some of what you're going to see next not only came before the potion, but it also came way back before the spamdemic even started. I'll try to specify that as we go through this, as this timeline meets up with our timeline. So let me get you caught up on the plot. So the remnants of humanity who had to escape Earth because Earth was wiped out twice, they land on this new planet. And the planet is called Sanctum. And they realize that they're all coming down with some strange illness. And it occurs during this double sun eclipse. Now you can see it here as this second sun is starting to approach the other one to eclipse here. And of course, what are eclipses? They're corona mass ejections, are they not? Is what you can see during the eclipses, right? Now, in the series, the trees release this toxin. And the only cure to this madness that people get is the bite of a snake. Except the snake doesn't bite with its fangs. It injects with a needle-like tongue. Is all this starting to sound familiar? Watch.
Oh my God.
So one of their, I guess, soldiers or whatever gets, is exposed to this toxin. He's going to die. And they pull out this snake. And the snake sticks his tongue into his side.
Trust me, I know. But the venom degrades too quickly to deliver it in any other form.
We call it kapashur. Means hideous snake in Chinese.
Of course, it's Chinese, right? Now, again, this scene you're looking at here was from before the spamdemic. So it's weird that they mentioned Chinese here, and there's a snake.
Amazing, isn't it? Its curative properties were discovered during one of the earliest red suns.
It's working.
Now, what you're looking at here is the original space station that started the entire 100 series. And the space station was called the Ark. And at its base was a ring. And then what looks to be like a projected needle come through the ring. To me, this reminds me of the Space Needle in Seattle. Looks a lot like a needle. And these were some drawings that a girl made. Some like prophetic drawings.
Why did you draw these?
The kapashur bit him, and the toxin from the seaweed had no effect.
So, of course, they're talking about toxon. We all know what toxon is. It's the Greek word for toxin, but also means a ribbon or bow. It could be a bow and arrow, but it could also be a ribbon, a piece of ribbon. And so let's keep watching here.
Poison made the demon Gabriel believe he could walk on water.
He's breathing.
Well done, Killian. Now, lock them up.
Lock them up. So these are the 100 landing on the planet from Earth, and the other people, this guy, are the people that lived on Sanctum. And we'll get into more of what all that means in a minute. But what you're going to hear next, and this is again before the spamdemic, They talk about lockdowns and lock them up. Listen closely.
Lock them up.
Why is Sanctum on lockdown? Lockdown isn't enough if someone is hiding them.
Clark's daughter. We have her in custody with most of the others, but 2 of them are still at large. We believe they're in Sanctum, which is why we're on lockdown.
So the clear references to lockdown. Now, when you take any one of these elements, then it means nothing. But when you take them all together, lockdowns, you're going to see masks next as well. When you take them all together, and toxins and then, you know, serpent's tongues, you know, injecting people, when you take it all together, a very clear picture emerges. And the clear picture is foreshadowing, foreknowledge, knowledge of events that have not happened yet. Now, if this happened in one series, even then you couldn't prove anything with that. But we are seeing the same themes running throughout every single series leading up, that we've covered anyway, leading up to the spamdemic. Unbelievable foreshadowing. It's like they were programming us. Now, what are we going to see next year? Well, you're going to see masks. Now, these scenes that you're going to see aired in the middle of 2019, a full year before real masks and real lockdowns would happen. That guy has a mask. He's wiping dust off. It's a Christmas type of scene. This is when the whole spamdemic would start. Months after this scene aired. During Christmas.
Earth before the bombs.
Before the bombs, he says. They're in a diner. See, it's obviously Christmas. Another mask. The middle of 2019 this aired, you guys. And another mask. Is it sinking in yet? Now, we all know that the word for gift means poison. Does it not?
It's a dome.
Now, you just heard her say it's a dome. So now we're going to get into the shape of the universe. We've talked a lot about this, haven't we? Those of you that follow the channel. Lots of talk about the universe, the shape of it, clues in our own anatomy even of what the shape of the universe is like. So let's get into more of this. Our first clue that they're going to talk about the shape of the universe, which oftentimes they do, is this first mention of a dome firmament. They call it a dome, but it's actually symbolic of the firmament. Now, what you're going to see next are portals, trees as portals. And you're also going to see comparing our limbs, our body limbs, to tree limbs. Watch.
I assume she went under, leaving only her hand exposed to the temporal flare. Though not fully, or it would be fossilized like the trees.
She's talking about the tree limb and this gnarled hand. What happened is Octavia, this woman whose hand you're looking at, gets caught in a tree portal, and it causes her to age, her arm to age much faster than the rest of her body. And of course, the research we've done on this channel, portals are shaped like tree trunks. Spiral tree trunks. Water is the vehicle or the carrier. And there are some obscure references to water being where souls are stored or memory is stored. Now, of course, God has control of all that on a supernatural level. But I believe that when the end gets here and the scrolls are open and everything is disclosed, I believe this will be the case. So water is the carrier. It's almost like how a tree takes water up through its roots, travels up to the top of the tree. Well, that's how we go through portals. And this is why an umbilical cord, a child's umbilical cord, is like a tree trunk. And when they cut off the umbilical cord, they actually call it a trunk. And that's what births us into the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is where we're stuck. We're stuck here after Eve entered the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We got stuck here in the world of sin, cut off from the rest of the garden, which includes the tree of life. We're cut off from that for now. The only way back is through the narrow gate, which is another tree trunk, which is through Jesus Christ. And notice a child is suspended in water while it develops. That's the conduit. That's the vehicle. Amniotic fluid. Amniotic. Amnesia. The forgetting of where we came from. Because God knew us in the womb. We probably knew him too. But then we forget when we're born.
Fascinating.
Notice, now you're going to see all this play out. Everything that I just told you is all going to play out in these next scenes here. But you'll notice that wisdom sometimes comes out of the mouth of babes. Right? They say just profound things sometimes. Sometimes they even talk about seeing and knowing Jesus. Right? Isn't that amazing? Well, maybe that's because they're remembering that they knew God in the womb.
Oh, it's spreading.
So this guy tries to heal her hand by getting sap out of these trees.
Here it comes.
Teresa,
Buying time.
buying time for your friends to come and save you.
I prefer time in a bottle.
So they're talking about time, of course, and that ends up being what happens when they pass through these tree portals. Time is changed. It's experienced at slower and faster rates, depending on where you're at. And that's what it's like here. We are in a certain timeline here, in the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We don't live forever. We have a finite life. But then in heaven, very close to the tree of life, God says 1,000 years is a day for him.
So, what's the verdict?
Spreading seems to have slowed.
So we talked a lot about tree trunks, right? The Devil's Tower, Devil's Post Pile, these twisted spiral tree trunks that seem to be cut off all around the planet. Well, these were once portals. They probably connected Earth to the Garden of Eden. I believe the Garden of Eden is actually like above us or at the edges of us. We're cut off from it. 2 angels are posted at the entrance to the Garden of Eden, and we can no longer get there because we've been cut off. And up there is the tree of life, and then above that is heaven. We're at the lower levels of our reality. These portals take us through, but we're cut off from them for now. But they're shaped like trees.
Something else came through.
Welcome to the party.
So that here he's talking about something else coming through. These are in fact portals. Let's keep going.
Octavia lost her memory too. Must be a result of moving through the anomaly.
So there's the losing of the memory, the amnesia, amniotic fluid.
What's the anomaly?
There's the anomaly, but it's actually a bridge or a gate or a portal, obviously shaped like a pillar or a tree. Now here's Octavia, and she ends up going through the portal and comes up through the water. Pillar of light coming up through the water. And then they're going to dovetail this scene with this other woman named Diosa, and she gives birth in this place where Octavia goes to, which is called the Garden. Now, this is from season 7, so this is after the spamdemic began, but the episode is called The Garden, and Diosa and Octavia run into the tree portal, and they find themselves in this alternate reality where time goes by much slower. Now, Let's play this out and you can see this. So that's Diosa, and the other woman is Octavia. Now, in the previous season, these two characters described themselves as two serpents in Eden. I believe it was in season 5, because they both have done very dark and evil things. And I think the quote was, Eden didn't stand a chance with two serpents in the garden, or something like that. So now they find themselves together in a place called the Garden, in the episode titled The Garden, which is one of the worlds that you can enter as you go through these portals. Now we'll get into the time portals more in the next decode. I'm hoping the next decode will be our last. But basically what they're depicting here is the metaphor between childbirth and portals and trees. Think about it. The placenta is a tree. It's a placental tree. You're basically in a lake by the tree when you're in the womb.
You said they used the bridge. Well, I'm assuming that's what we call the anomaly, a bridge between worlds. Is there a way to control it here too?
So this is the anomaly. They're calling them the stones. Actually, these are called the stones. What they are is they look like a spiral globe. So again, this would be like a metaphor of a tree trunk. This is what a tree trunk does. Spirals up, turns around and twists and grows upward. And these become like gates or portals. Now, I don't believe in universes in the way that science teaches. But what I do believe is that what they call universes are actually trees of the garden. God said there were many trees in the garden. And there's only one way back to these trees, these rooms with many mansions. And of course, that's through Jesus Christ. He says, I am the narrow gate. He was talking about exactly what he said. But how? What are the dynamics of it? What is the description of it? Well, imagine you're going through a narrow tree trunk.
I used to play down here as a kid. Little did I know it was a bridge to the stars.
No need for spaceships or cryo or mind drives. You could explore an entire universe. I don't believe it. Black hole, of course. That's why time is so accelerated here.
Can you fast forward?
Quite.
Should you be walking around?
So they're obviously talking about black holes. And again, what is behind that? What is the spiritual aspect behind what they describe as a black hole? Well, what is a black hole? It's a twisted tree trunk. That's exactly what it is. So there's some truth to it, but they think they can get there and they think they could break through the firmament. So they make us believe all that, but that's not the case. There's only one way, you guys. The Bible tells us the only way out of this tree that we're in now.
Oh, I just squeezed some.
Now in the Bible, children are called fruit. And after she gives birth, you get more and more confirmations as she says, I push something out the size of a watermelon through the size of a grape, is what she's going to say here.
Oh, I just squeezed something the size of a watermelon out of something the size of a grape.
How does that happen? Through another tree trunk. What do you mean, Casey? The birth canal is a tree trunk. Okay? You notice, people always say birth is a miracle. It really is. You're taking this massive child and squeezing it through the tiniest hole. Well, that would be a miracle right before your eyes. You're watching it. And it's an analogy and a metaphor of the greater universe. Now, some people are like maybe saying, Casey, what are you talking about? Go back to the Bible. Here's what I want you to do after the show. If you have any doubts about this, here's a simple Bible study. Go to BibleGateway.com, King James Version if you want. Type in the word tree. Do a search for the word tree. And I want you to read I think there may be 100 to 200 verses that all include the word tree. Read through them. Then I want you to take, and then I want you to read them from front to back, from Genesis all the way to Revelation. I don't know if trees mentioned in Revelation, but then the picture will emerge. You'll be like, whoa, there are analogies to people as trees. And someone's eyes were open and they could see people that look like trees. And wow, there were trees in the garden. And wow, one of the pharaohs was compared to a great tree that all the cities of earth were living in. And it shaded all of the cities of earth. They were under its shade. And it goes on and on and on. And then after that, I want you to do the same search, but use the word fruit. And you will see the fruit compared to the womb and fruitfulness. Fruit is in the trees, you guys. And then it will all make sense that this is the structure. This is the framework. Trees and fruit are the framework of our entire reality. That's why we are shaped like trees. Limbs. You have trunk. You have a crown of your head. You set down roots when you go somewhere. You have a family tree. And it goes on and on and on. Now, here's what I expect is going to happen here. You're probably thinking, why are we looking at this stuff to gather bits of truth? Well, this truth already exists. It's already in the Bible, okay? It's just that through the paradigm of our religious experience, we were never disclosed these truths. In other words, we read the Bible through certain eyes because that's the paradigm that's been set up for us through our Christian experience. These deeper secrets were not revealed to us until this point in history. So it's not that we're looking at this stuff to find truth. We're simply seeing the truth for what it is and seeing things on the spiritual level that the devil already knows, that he's probably going to use some of these truths that have been held back from us to try to deceive us, so that when the Antichrist comes, speaking signs and wonders, what's the first thing he's going to say? Wow, you guys have been Christian your whole life, but that's a lie. And I have proof, because look how I read the Bible. I'm showing you these deeper truths, the truth about the trees, and everyone's going to be in awe, like if they've heard it for the first time, right? And it's going to be reinforced by all of the programming that they put in your mind over the last 100 years of entertainment media. Do you see why we have to look at this stuff now and reveal it now before the Antichrist comes and tries to reveal it as, this is the first time anyone's seen any of this, and wow, look, he's going to think he's so amazing, and people are going to be like, wow, that's some deep knowledge. Well, the knowledge was already there. It's been held back from us because the devil rules this world. And he's given us a form of godliness and a form of religion and a form of Christianity, but it has no power because they were already sold out. Hopefully this makes sense to you guys. So this is why it's important to look at this stuff. Now, you get to a part in this season where they reveal that they're sacrificing to these trees. What they do is they think that in order to maintain their divinity, that they have to put these children and people down at the base of these trees, and then the roots grow all over the trees and consume the person. It's unbelievable.
Did you think I wouldn't notice my offerings going missing?
So, the people that founded Sanctum, this planet, and settled it, they're called primes. And they're basically humans, but they found a way hundreds of years ago to basically genetically modify their blood against radiation, which then turned the blood black. So they genetically modified their own blood so they could tolerate radiation better. For some reason, this affected their genetics. It was then handed down, but only certain people would be born with this black blood. So what they would do, these primes, is they had this memory chip in the back of their neck that stored all their memories. And as their bodies begin to get older, they would transfer their chip into a new body. Problem is that it would wipe out the other person's brain. So they would basically snatch the person's body. Now, the only people that they could switch bodies to had to have the black blood too. Then there's two ways to get the black blood. They either born with it through genetic chance, or they had to insert it into someone else through this process who didn't have it to begin with, that then turn their blood black. But regardless, the person that they possessed had to have the black blood. Is all this starting to sound familiar? I believe that's what's happening right now. They're converting us to have the blue blood so that the bodies can be more easily possessed. So where does the chip go? It's in the back of their neck, in what I call the holy place. Now, you can get to the pineal gland from the back of the neck, but before you get there, there's an image of Christ hanging on the cross in the brainstem. Anatomically, that's what it appears to look like. Literally, these people are trying to fill your temple, the lamp of your body, with darkness, blocking out the light. The two cannot exist together. If you're full of darkness, like Jesus said, the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is single, your whole body will be full of light. If your eye is dark, your whole body will be full of darkness. It is written in the New Testament. So, we discovered all this a long time ago, long even before this series came out, that this is how demons do it. This is how they possess people. The human body has to be altered somehow first to make it fit for possession. The question is, how are they altering it? And as I explained in the series, they have to genetically modify the body to prepare it. Let's keep watching.
The forest doesn't feed that quickly. You dilute the bloodline, you make it less likely that anyone would bear a host.
We have the same blood, Clark.
You dilute the bloodline, make it unlikely that someone could bear a host. So that's the inbreeding that they have to do. Black bloods being with black bloods so that they can have new hosts for demon possession.
Royal blood. That's why they went after Delilah.
Planet Beta. Russell, we don't even know if it's survivable.
And finally, this last scene that I have for this trailer is they list the Greek letters as the names of these planets, including Delta, of course. And again, this was 2019, before the spamdemic even started.
If it isn't, we go for Gamma. Then Delta, then Epsilon.
If it isn't, we go for Gamma. Then Delta, then Epsilon.
We can access the mind drives of the other teams wirelessly from up here. Assuming there were no other signal-sucking anomalies.
So, let's go back here in the chat as we begin to wrap up here. Now, the final season 7 aired in mid-2020, just months after the lockdown began. The Prime leader's entire family is flushed out and airlocked by Clark at the end of season 6. And then back on the ground, humanity is trying to find a way to bring everyone together under one common purpose after they reveal the secret to the people about what the Primes were doing, that they were snatching their souls and their bodies. But it's hard because people are brainwashed in Sanctum. They don't want to come to terms with this. They still deify and worship the bloodline, and they can't come to terms with it because they don't even know how to act. Kind of feels like what's going on right now, doesn't it? Now, we will get more into how some of these characters get free from the alternate universe that I showed you, the garden, in the next and final episode of the rest of season 7.